Welcome to Season 1 of Snubs and Dubs, where we talk the snubs and dubs of the 69th Academy Award for Best Picture. I'm your host, Kyle Tobiasson, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Jason Miller. Jason, what did I just call you? A co-host?
Am I a co-host now?
What is that?
This is incredible. What a promotion. I come on one episode, I leave for one episode, and all of a sudden I'm called back to the big leagues. Just gone for...
I just couldn't resist you. Your smooth, silky voice after I listened to you for over 6 hours trying to edit our episode.
And I immediately said yes. I had no other Friday night plans. I am always down.
Awesome. I'm so glad that we could have you here on a consistent basis. If you're confused as to what's going on, please listen to the trailer that we just put out. It probably went out on the Friday before this episode. It will explain everything, but quickly, we are going into a seasons format, which means we're doing a season of movies. We're not just talking about nominees anymore. We're talking about anything noteworthy. And obviously, if you clicked on this episode and were like, wait a minute, Independence Day wasn't nominated for Best Picture, well, here's that answer to your question. So season 1 of Snubs and Dubs is covering the films of the year 1996. That's the 69th Academy Awards for Best Picture. For episode 1, we're going to talk about the movie Independence Day. So, Jason, have you seen it before?
I have seen this movie a lot before.
Yeah.
I think 3 times probably from start to finish. And then it was one of those movies that's just always running on like those free movie channels or whatever movie channels are randomly included in my parents' cable package. So I've seen this movie like probably some scenes probably 10 times, some like just 3 or 4. But I know this movie in and out so well.
Good. I'm
Kyle.
glad to have you here for that because I'll expose myself a little bit. This was the first time I had watched it for this podcast.
When you told me that you had never seen this before, I didn't know how you've avoided it. This is one of those movies where I'm not going to judge you for not seeing it. It's not some kind of must-watch piece of cinema. I just don't know how you haven't. It's like coming this long and not being rained on before.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a very America type movie. So, and like, it came out in the year that we were born. So, I still really don't know how I missed it for so long. There's scenes that I've seen before. Like, I've seen the speech. Like, that. Oh, yeah. Who hasn't seen the speech at that point? But, like,
whether you recognize it or not, you've seen that White House blow up many times.
Yep. When was the last time you watched it before you'd seen this one, though?
Don't remember the last time. I've just some of this movie is so like bit piece from I've just been like at home sick. Probably the last time I watched that, I was at home sick from like school and then just flipping through the channels like, oh hell yeah, Independence Day. Let's see Will Smith blow it up again.
Yeah. This is early Will Smith career, I think. This might have been a big move for him from French press.
This is a big change up in his coffee game. He went from French press straight to drip on this one.
From Fresh Prince to this. I think this and Men in Black probably solidified him as a big action star. So.
Definitely Men in Black. This didn't hurt.
No.
Don't know if this was the career maker, but Men in Black definitely was.
Yeah. So before we jump into talking about the movie, I'll quickly mention again, last episode, I was talking with Nick about my host, Buzzsprout. If you're looking to start a podcast, they are the best host to use. If you use the link to them in my description, you can get a $20 Amazon gift card by signing up for a paid account. It helps out the channel, and it helps out you because you'll get your voice out there. So go ahead and check out that link. And if you're interested in this film, I've included the links to the physical media related to it, that being the 4K Blu-ray and DVD. If you buy it through our link to Amazon, it'll help out the show. Or if you have any other Amazon shopping to do, feel free to follow the general link, and that'll also help out the show in the process. So, Jason, should we jump into Independence Day?
Oh, I am ready if you're ready.
I'm ready. A reminder that this is a spoiler-filled conversation. We're going to cover the whole plot. So if you haven't seen this movie like I hadn't before this episode, go ahead and watch it right now. It's on Disney+, but we're going to get right into it. So, Jason, go ahead.
So, 1996's Independence Day. In this epic adventure film, Independence Day, strange phenomena surface around the globe. The skies ignite. Terror races through the world's major cities. As these extraordinary events unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that a force of incredible magnitude has arrived. Its mission? Total annihilation over the 4th of July weekend. The last hope to stop the destruction is an unlikely group of people united by fate and unimaginable circumstances. This is written by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich, also directed by Roland Emmerich. It stars an ensemble cast including Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, Mary McDonnell, Judd Hirsch, and Margaret Collin, just to name a few. It was released June 25th, 1996 at Man Plaza Theater with a runtime of 2 hours and 25 minutes.
What did you think of Independence Day then?
I mean, I love Independence Day. It's just... Normally, this is like a turn my brain off and watch just fun action scenes. I know an alien gets punched in the head in there, and I spend most of the movie just waiting for that alien to get socked in the face by Will Smith.
Yeah, and then he complains about he could have been at a barbecue. It's some great quality moments in here.
It's perfect. So this is a movie that I have forever loved and cherished, despite maybe it not being everyone's favorite movie, as I've come to learn afterwards. But it is an incredible motion picture, probably the perfect piece of cinema. Kyle, what did you think of this movie?
I also really liked it. This was my first time watching it, and so like I kind of started to take notes because for the podcast I wanted to take a little bit of notes for it. But eventually I just kind of like settled in. You know, I had some popcorn and a drink, and I just sat back and watched and just got all giddy when some of the crazy shit happened. And yeah, so I really liked it, and I will be definitely revisiting this one again multiple times.
Oh yeah, I was so scared that this like piece of my childhood would not hold up, and then I turned it on 5 minutes in. Oh, it held up, baby.
It's good,
it was beautiful the entire way.
And it just like jumps right into it, which we'll do here. I'm going to start into the plot details. So we start with a quick look at the moon, where we see the impending doom of the invasion towards Earth. The signal is picked up by the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, which I don't even know. Is that a real thing?
SETI is a real thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely is.
Cool.
They got all those big dishes out in like New Mexico. I mostly know that because of a Scooby-Doo movie. But SETI does exist, unless I am extremely gullible and stupid. But
yeah, I mean, you could be totally convincing me, and I believe you right now. So, so they realize that the signal is coming from the moon, so closer than they might have anticipated. And what I really like about this movie is, even though it takes 20 minutes for Will Smith to show up, like we are right into the invasion, pretty much from like minute one. Like they're here.
Oh yeah, I think like the first scene has that American flag getting overshadowed by the aliens, and like right there, you know that we're about to hop right in, and then it like cuts to pandemonium in a control room right away, which is excellent. I did not want like exposition and talking, and we did not get it.
No, we jump right in. So we do meet a few characters like the general, and we meet the president, which is Bill Pullman. And they start to kind of pick up on what's going on. We also meet David as he's playing chess with his dad in the park. We learn that David is divorced, but still wearing his wedding ring. And you also get the sense that David is super conscious about the environment, which was good for a 1996 movie.
Hell yeah, they knew right away.
Yeah. Which is funny because we just talked about Michael Clayton and it being kind of avoiding of the environmental issues. And then this movie is just like, environment.
Over a decade before, and they're already on the right train.
And like also against smoking. Like David is just like the like most left-wing movie character from a 1996 movie.
This movie doesn't miss. It couldn't possibly.
It's great. And Jeff Goldblum, so good in this movie. I mean, he's being Jeff Goldblum.
I know, like, he's been casted to be himself in a different scenario again, but he kills it once again. And I love watching Jeff Goldblum from this era because he has just the most confusing sexiness to him that you can't look away. You know there's something between you and Jeff Goldblum, but you can't explain it and you don't really want to tell your parents about it.
Yeah. And it's intimate too. You know, it's just with you and him, even though it's you and him and everyone else.
But he makes you feel like it's just you and him.
He's like, whoa, 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 and like all these little mannerisms. It's all for you.
Thanks, Jeff Goldblum.
So we also meet Russell and Miguel as Russell drunkenly crop dusts the wrong field. And that's kind of a character that doesn't really pay off until later on.
Yeah, he's just kind of like a drunk dad for a while. He's really like slapstick comic relief where he gets like arrested for dropping pamphlets outside the White House or something.
Yeah, just being like, because he was, like, as we learned, he was abducted by aliens, or at least claims to have been. But I understand he genuinely got abducted by aliens, and they used him to kind of learn what humans were all about and how to best kill them, but it's affected him so much, and we see like kind of the PTSD of that earlier on.
Which I think they even claim he has, which is also pretty forward-looking. I don't know if that was a wide diagnosis at that point.
Yeah, and because he was in Vietnam, and he came back with PTSD, not just because of Vietnam, but because of the aliens. So, But maybe there's an allegory there. Maybe there's some deeper themes behind Independence Day.
Oh, couldn't possibly be. No, it's aliens blowing up.
And then we learn that 36 spaceships have broken off and are entering the atmosphere. And what I really like about this movie is the scale that they kind of capture with the spaceships, because there's 36 of these, but each one of them is massive and just like covers basically an entire city.
Mm-hmm. And they all have a really cool entry where they're covered in like flame and clouds.
Yeah.
You don't really see them for a while either. You just see these giant unknown masses flying around, these UFOs, if you will. It looks really wicked, and everyone running in fear legitimately feels like they're being completely dominated by these giant flying things.
Oh God, yeah, like that. It's genuinely scary if you think about like what those people are seeing. And I liked how you could see the shadow and how everything kind of got dark underneath, which is what would happen with like it blocking the sun out. But yeah,
I also love, especially when they're doing like New York and around America, where people just exited their vehicles in the middle of the street, but it wasn't like they were carried, like they would just step out of the vehicle while driving and then get rear-ended by 7 people doing the same thing. It was beautiful. I love that.
There's like a cop that gets out in the middle of an intersection, gets like rear-ended and then pushes into somebody else and then gets T-boned by like a massive truck, and he's just standing in the street just looking at them. But we do get that shot of the cloud revealing the ship, and holy shit, that is so effective. It's just like emerging out of this cloud, and you just see the scale of it, and David's standing there watching. Like, I think he looks like kind of impressed, but also like in fear. But yeah. So the world, it goes into a panic because it also landed over Russia, and they were in a bit of a frenzy. But the president says that they should stay calm, and he's going to stay in the White House to kind of make people stay calm.
Absolute hero.
Yeah, I mean, what a champ. David then figures out the pattern before he even realizes that the aliens are aliens. He finds this sort of weird pattern. And then you get the guys harassing Russ in the diner. That's when we learn that he was kidnapped by aliens. And then this is when I say 21 minutes in, we finally meet Will Smith. And that, like, I actually had to look at my phone because I knew that there was some significant time that had passed. But the first 20 minutes of this movie is just them arriving, basically, and the scramble of it. And like, I think in a lesser movie it would have gotten boring, because like we want to see some action and we want to see some shit happen and the response and people freaking out, but like, yeah, it just gets going and it doesn't stop. But Will Smith sleeps through the arrival, and it's just like, oh, it's an earthquake. And then Jasmine's like, oh, it's only like a small earthquake, so she just goes back to sleep. Doesn't even care where her son is at that point. But then we see the spaceship. We get the cool scene. I really like this scene of Will Smith finally getting up, going to see the paper, or going to get his paper, and he sees like his neighbors are like scrambling to leave town, and he's like, the neighbors are finally moving.
Yeah. It's just one of those beautiful things, like, oh, look at this buffoon, he doesn't know what's going on, but then like it has a good payoff too when he realizes that everyone on the street is moving and it's not just an earthquake.
Yeah, I like the shot of him like looking side to side and just seeing everybody packing up in a panic, and then finally looks up and sees the massive spaceship. And Jasmine does the same thing where she walks up, she's like, what are you doing? Like, let's go. And then he points at it.
I also, I love, like you mentioned it earlier, how it moves at a good clip at the start. I think they do a really good job of explaining what's going on, because first of all, it's not an incredibly complicated situation to figure out. There's aliens, they're over these locations and whatnot, but they have a good way of embedding small bits of what's happening through like news reporters talking to people and just like little conversations that you overhear that you can hear really clearly. You know what's going on, but you know, like they didn't waste time on that. They just had that while other things were going on to bring you up to speed faster. Like they had a really good use of dialogue to explain what's going on without like just a dump of like someone being like, man, there's aliens over these 6 places and this is what's happening to those people. Like it just kind of gets fed in throughout the action, which is awesome.
Yeah, and they use like news a lot. Like they use it kind of in the intro to say that maybe people aren't as impressed with the president as they desired him to be. And they have a lot of characters to introduce. Like it's a big ensemble cast. You have to introduce like Russ and Miguel in that group, Will Smith, Jasmine and that like his family, and the president, the White House, David, everybody. You have to introduce everybody in these first 20 minutes and still get the tension going for the eventual payoff. Which we'll get to in a second. So David realizes that it's a countdown and that the spaceships are counting down to what he says is a checkmate, which is a payoff from him playing chess earlier. And they're positioning themselves strategically around the world into the power places, like New York, LA, and Washington to start in the States. And I think they're over Moscow in Russia. I don't know if I heard of the.
Yeah, they were in Moscow as well.
Yeah,
I think my favorite thing about that chess analogy is like it hardly has anything to do with chess. It's like, oh, these spaceships are going to move into strategic locations and then attack, and then that's checkmate.
Yeah,
like that's. Do they only? Is no one else playing against them? Is this a one-sided chess match? Like normally, I think chess is a bit more intricate than that, David. Maybe that's why you're not doing so hot.
Or maybe he's just gonna go up and be like, "Yo, guys, it's my turn. Why are you still moving?"
Yeah, like, hold on, I got the timer going down here. I'm bleeding out your time.
So David, once he realizes that there's only 6 hours until the end of the world or whatever this end of this countdown is, he calls his ex-wife, whose name is Constance. And I think he calls her Connie a few times. I didn't know her name until I looked it up later on. But he calls her because she's the chief of staff, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
To the president. And he wants to warn her about the countdown, but she doesn't believe him. And so they have to up and go down to Washington, driving down. And so that's why I think he starts with it saying it's 6 hours, but by the time they get to Washington, it's like half an hour left. So they spent like 5 hours driving out there where they could have just kept trying to call. I don't know. Steven or Will Smith decides that, he's got to go because, there's fucking aliens there and he's part of the military. But Jasmine is angry. And what I found was funny was he doesn't just take Jasmine and the son and go like everyone else. He goes, he's like, everything's going to be fine. I'm sure they're not going to come here just to fuck shit up. So you go do your stripping.
Yeah.
And, I'll come back or you can meet me at the base later. And I get that it probably saves her in a way because if she had gone with them, she would have been destroyed at the base when the aliens later go and destroy the base. But who's at the strip club right now? There's a better show going on outside.
Only the real ones who have already just accepted their fate and know exactly what they want to do with what is possibly their last hours on Earth are going. So whoever was working that night for the strippers, they made bank because there was probably men just taking out their entire 401ks because they knew this was their last chance. There had to have been mad stats.
There had to have been a couple people. I think what we see is that she's dancing, but nobody's watching because they're all watching TV. But you would have to think in a mass hysteria situation where people think the world's going to end, someone's dropping bank on a few lap dances and being like, look, this might be my last night on Earth. Can you,
Oh, yeah. Someone's pulling out their kids' college fund because they're not going to need that. We're more worried about tonight.
Yeah. When David's driving with his dad has a line, what, you think we'll get to Washington and it won't be there?
Yeah.
A little bit of foreshadowing. So we also see the other storyline of Miguel and Russell. Russell gets arrested on the news, but then he returns promptly. And we see that this is when he's kind of claiming that he knew that this was going to happen, that he was abducted. And we also see the guys that were harassing him earlier basically admit that say that they believed his story and that they touched him sexually. Oh, another line that I liked was on the news, they ask Americans to stop shooting at the spacecraft.
Yeah, I did. I love that. I think, especially in light of the recent pandemic we've been through, they absolutely nailed how people would react to a giant alien invasion. There would be people just firing handguns at it. There would be people just accepting and celebrating the arrival of these aliens and going up on tall buildings to get closer to there. That was fantastic. These guys had some real foresight.
I liked the line of one of those girls. Oh God, I hope they bring back Elvis. Yeah. Like he was up there the whole time or something. All right, so we also check back in with Steven, and we have this little moment of him with his friend getting ready to to kind of go to this briefing. We learn that Steven also wanted to get into the space program, but was rejected. We also get this moment where he reveals the ring that he's going to give to Jasmine. And his friend ends up getting down on one knee in front of Steven, and somebody walks in and he just kind of puts his hands up and walks away.
That was just one of those cute little things that they had time to do, so they dropped that in there. I thought it was funny. That was a good scene. That was pretty wholesome.
Yeah, it also wasn't like he was disgusted by them, which easily could have happened in a 90s film. He just kind of put his hand up, was like, "Oh, I'll leave you guys alone." And
whoa, I'm dropping in on something here.
Yeah, and then left. Yeah, so surprisingly progressive movie for a 90s sci-fi smash 'em up, basically.
And I love how quickly they dropped so much of Will Smith's motivation in that quick scene.
Yeah.
Boom, he wants to be an astronaut. Boom, he wants to marry his girlfriend. You kind of right away there in a minute and a half pick up his main two motivations without just having to have him just say out loud, "Man, I sure wish I could marry my girlfriend before we die."
Yep. Yeah. And you get, and that later pays off to his excitement later when he's like, "I'll fly the spaceship." And then he's like, "I gotta get me one of these," and you're in the only one. But David also has a micro CD disc. That piece. This is one of those moments that dates this movie in the 90s when David has a laptop and he puts the micro CD disc in, and his dad's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's every phone book on the planet, Dad." And it's supposed to be some crazy high tech moment.
"Dad, I can use this to rate the women in my college." Surely this
Thanks,
won't be
Zuckerberg.
destructive.
All right. Well, so we finally get to the White House. And David uses some sort of antenna to track his ex-wife on the phone. Very creepy. But then he gets a call, or he calls her, and she finally lets him inside. In the meantime, the military is setting up a helicopter with light panels to try and communicate with aliens. But which have you ever seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
No, I have not.
That's another one where they use light and sound to communicate with aliens. So maybe in this movie they're trying to reference a movie or use something that was from a movie to communicate with aliens and maybe think they would work. But what were they
we don't have a language to communicate with through lights. How are we supposed to talk to someone else? Because the worst case scenario is they start flashing lights back and we don't know what they're doing or saying.
Yeah, exactly. What do we expect? They understand Morse code or something and they can flash the light, but even they weren't even doing that. They were just doing cool designs and flickers.
Throughout the movie, they were using Morse code to communicate between humans because I guess it's assumed the aliens don't know Morse code.
Mm-hmm.
So what were they flashing these guys?
I don't know. Just trying to get some headlights in their face and be
yeah,
"We're here."
So they'll just go away or something on a bright light.
Yeah, but this is the first kind of moment that we actually get some sort of, I guess, genuine response from the aliens where they blow up the lights because maybe it was irritating them.
Yeah, just little bugs to them.
Yeah, exactly. And then David tells the president basically what the problem was. He says, well, they're having satellites because they're having satellite issues because the aliens are using the satellites to coordinate their attack. And David reveals then that they only have 30 minutes left until boom, boom. And so then the president finally kind of believes David and tries to evacuate the city and tells them that they're going to leave. And basically we finally get the scene where the big blue laser beams come down, and this scene fucking slaps.
It
dude.
rips.
It's just the destruction that they show. I don't know if this was maybe miniatures and practical effects or what they did here, but so good. The explosions of all three buildings all three, was it three or two? Because they showed the Empire State Building.
It was definitely New York and Washington.
Yeah, I don't know if they showed the LA.
I don't remember they showed the other ones, but those two for sure as quite memorable. There was one over Dallas as well, I believe. I think at least there's one in Texas. I don't know if it showed that one blowing things up because they returned later to attempt to nuke it. Yeah,
but the explosion of the White House is one of those scenes that are just if you haven't seen this movie, you've probably seen either of these getting blown up because that was crazy and really effective in the moment.
And I loved with the Air Force One escaping right in front of it in like dumb cheesy action movie sense, but I was on the edge of my seat. I know there's still a lot of runtime left, so clearly they survive. But man, I love that scene.
I know,
it's so
really
well
great.
done. You feel the doom and like how close it is, and
Yeah.
it's still every time gets me a little bit.
Yeah. And like that's kind of like the initial incident, even though we're all almost half an hour to the movie now. Like that is the scene that like really kind of sets everything up and like the response afterwards.
Yeah.
But speaking of cheesy escape moments, when Jasmine, who's in a tunnel, just decides to, she's the only person that realizes there's a door there and that maybe she can go in there. And she doesn't even close the door because she wants the dog to get in.
Yeah.
And the dog does get in, but there would be fire flowing into that door if she didn't close it.
Physics were not talked to. They were not. They did not consult on this movie because the fire would just it would suck all of the air out of the tunnel, so everyone would have died from asphyxiation far before they burnt to a crisp. But also, when the fire expands through the tunnel, it doesn't go like straight lines. It's gonna go a little sideways and scorch them in there. But the power of love, baby, that's stronger than explosions, and
the
it always
power
will be.
of plot armor just like has to survive to the end of the movie.
I mean, if it weren't for the dog making it into the tunnel, they would have died. It was purely the dog being there who was worth saving in the end, and the fire just passed right past.
Okay, so now we get to July 3rd. And so Will Smith and the Air Force attempt and fail to assault one of the ships because the shields protect it, and then a swarm of alien ships come out and pretty much take out every fighter except for Will Smith, who manages to take down an alien and deke him out. And he takes him out by like ejecting and like basically crashing his own ship.
Yeah, so because he had the parachute pulled back onto the alien ship, so he didn't know a giant wall was coming out. And then Will Smith hops out just in the nick of time before the alien is able to pull up and escape that.
Yeah.
I loved that scene of like them trying to blow up the ship with just like their little puny fighter rockets because it was just on such a long string of humanity taking L's, and every little bit kept hurting. And then they have a shield too. That sucks. Oh no, now they're fighting us. That's like, oh no, now the fighters have shields too. Could not catch a break until Will Smith just kind of got a quick one in.
Yeah. And then, he punches the alien in the face, which is one of the funniest moments in this movie because he's complaining. He actually landed pretty hard. I thought he was gonna like hurt himself and like be kind of struggling, because like he landed from that parachute like.
Oh, he did not eject far from the ground. He was still moving really fast.
Yeah, and then so he's excited, and then he opens up the thing, punches the alien in the face, and I guess knocks the alien out because he puts him in the parachute and just starts dragging him through the desert.
One shot, baby.
And then that's when we get kind of the funny lines of him just talking to basically himself or the alien and complaining that he could have been at a barbecue and like.
And I will input here. I didn't use this as the fun fact, but it's still a fact that's kind of fun. The line where he says, "What is that smell?" was not scripted, but it turns out in the salt flats they were filming on, there's a lot of dead shrimp that sink to the bottom of those beds. And when there's a high wind, all these rotting shrimp carcasses get turned up in the dirt.
No.
So what he was smelling was briny, rotting, shriveled up shrimp carcasses. And that was just his reaction during the scene. He
His like
included that.
genuine reaction.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a fun fact.
But it's not the titular fun fact.
Okay.
That's just a mini one sprinkled in.
Sure. Okay. A little tease. So as this is happening, though, the aliens also take out the military base El Toro, the one that Jasmine was heading to. Steve doesn't know this, and so he starts walking and eventually gets picked up by Russ and the other like RV crowd. But I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit.
I do love. Was it Jasmine? Is that his girlfriend's name?
Yeah.
Jasmine's Mad Maxian drive around picking up survivors and everything. What a badass.
I know.
I loved adding like them putting that in there after she makes it out in the tunnel. She's now running around saving America one person at a time. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, then Will Smith does hook up with that RV.
With the RV crew, and so we finally get another character kind of combination with Russ and Will Smith, kind of heading to Area 51, which Will Smith just knows where to go, but the president like didn't know about any of this.
That was a funny scene where like the Secretary of Defense, who's kind of been like an annoying character
Yeah.
who contradicts everything and just wants destruction, was like, well, there is this one place that every single person knows about except for the president.
Yeah, because David's dad knew about it. Like, he was
Everyone,
like,
yeah.
there was an alien crash landed out here like several years ago, and you guys knew, and you didn't do anything. And the president's like, oh, that's all, myth and legend. And yeah, then the Secretary of Defense was like, is it though?
Yeah, it's actually several $1 million in our budget line. I don't know how you miss that.
So then we also get some of Jasmine saving some people, including the First Lady in that Mad Maxian truck sequence. And she picks up quite a few people, actually, and gets kind of a little bit of a ragtag crew together. And then we also learn about Area 51. So we arrive at Area 51 with David, President, and company, and they see the ship and the alien skeletons, which they've just had. They've had like 3 of them, which I was like, okay, you just like leave this from your president?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just kind of a little bit convenient, in my opinion.
Also, I don't know why the president couldn't have known about this. I don't think it would have changed anything.
No.
Because that's the first destination they go to after leaving the White House. So
Yeah.
even if he knew it was going on, that's still like a sensible chain of events and locations to go to.
Yeah.
But I think they just wanted to add in there that the Secretary of Defense is kind of a dickhead who keeps his information to himself.
Slimy prick.
Yeah.
So then we get Steve and crew arrive at Area 51. He doesn't have clearance, but he just shows them the alien and they just let him in because I guess that's
all
a
you
free
need.
pass if you arrive at Area 51 with an alien. You're just like, oh, you're good to go.
I mean, they're going through a lot. Those guards have just come face to face with aliens themselves. They were probably not asking a lot of questions at that point. And I think, like, as the movie progresses, more and more people are just in Area 51. Like, clearly the guards at some point just raised the arms and left and they went home.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Steve drops in the alien, and the scientists start to examine it. Oh, we also get a quick moment of the general telling Steve that El Toro has been completely destroyed. And so he thinks that maybe Jasmine went there and died, but not strongly enough because he does steal a helicopter later and tried to go and see. But yes, these scientists try to examine the alien. They use it's like a normal tool and it just like cracks open.
Yeah.
And this was like an incredible prosthetic or like costume, whatever it was. Like the design of the alien was really solid and gross and weird, but also captured a lot of the same sort of thing as like The Thing and Alien and like just all the classic Alien movies that came before it.
Yeah.
And just kind of culminates that into like a cool design.
I also love that surgery scene because everyone's gloved up. They got their scrubs on. They got the glasses on. Not a hairnet in sight. Everyone's hair is just out and about. And like the weird, like kooky scientist guy has a lot of hair.
It does.
So this is just like an absolute mess of his own. I don't know who allowed these people to operate on an alien, but they clearly do not have the clearance to do this.
Yeah, no. The qualifications.
Yeah.
I wasn't the president, that's for sure, because he didn't know anything about
the
it.
president couldn't have. That's the only reason why. If the president knew, they'd have enough hair ties.
So the alien escapes and kills pretty much everyone in there.
Absolutely goes to town on
Yeah,
them. Which also reveals that, because they split the top level alien open, that there's at least, it's like a Russian nesting doll scenario where there's the alien inside the alien.
Yeah.
But I also love the implication that he was knocked unconscious through like an exoskeleton by Steve for hours. This man's punch sent this alien into like a hard reset, and he just happened to wake up when he got cut open, but he wasn't dead. He was just sent to Snooze Town for an entire half a day.
And they didn't bother like maybe trying to sedate him or anything.
Oh no,
like,
they didn't check vitals
they
or anything.
were just like, he's good. Like Steve's got him. Like if he comes back up, we'll just get Steve and let's knock him out again.
Steve is a muscular man. Clearly that one hit had to have done the job.
Yeah. That Fresh Prince punch just ready to go. After he escapes, the alien uses like the throat of the wacky scientist guy, I think, to like use his vocal cords to speak to the president, which was really crazy in like a weird way. But also they have telepathy.
Also,
so, like,
they have.
Why didn't they just try to like?
I
go
think
in the mind?
He was trying to fake it and have the doctor just tell them to open up, which is such a terrible play. They're not good liars, these aliens. That's one thing we've learned about them. Diplomacy would have been easy because they can't lie very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also when they do the telepathy, while they're able to read the president's thoughts, the president can read their thoughts. Maybe they knew that's a weakness with that strat, so they wanted to just run it through the fake doctor real quick first, even though like clearly everything had just gone ass up in there. There's no way the doctor's just being like, yeah, we're good now.
Yeah.
You can come in.
And like the doctor dies, right? Yeah. But like, I mean, I haven't seen the second movie, but I think he's back. I thought he was back.
Oh, maybe he didn't die.
I don't know.
It wasn't one of those deaths that was so obvious that like it. If they retconned that one, I'd believe it because they just kind of show him pressed up against the glass and then you infer that he dies.
No, you don't. The Secretary of Defense, or no, not the Secretary of Defense. One of the soldiers walks up, touches his neck, and he's like, he's dead.
Oh, never mind.
So very definitively he says that he's dead. And yet he's back, I guess. I haven't seen the second one. I mean, I had hardly seen the first one before, but right. So after this, the president gets kind of like psychic zapped and they shoot the alien.
Yeah. Which, what a great line, like, is this glass bulletproof? And then 7 dudes with handguns just absolutely go to town on it. I loved that scene. That was awesome. Incredible.
Yeah, and the alien just dropped, which was good to know that at least they're not bulletproof.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if the scalpel can cut it through, then the bullets were absolutely going to just punch through them like cheese.
Yeah. And so because of this psychic zapping, the president decides that nuking is now on the table. And so we have that scene of them like prepping the nuke, getting it ready. There's guys in like a truck outside, just outside the alien thing. So are they just going to die?
I think they're just there for like, they're there for visual confirmation, but maybe they're assuming they're far enough away that they'll be okay, or they're in some kind of armor that somehow can withstand a nuke.
Yeah.
Or even at least like however far away they are, they'll be able to survive.
I don't know.
I guess that's the idea.
And we also don't see the nuke hit, so I don't know where they like hit it. Because if you hit it at like the top of the spacecraft, you know, maybe you can kind of avoid any of like the nuclear fallout falling below. But if you hit like directly on the side, and obviously it just bounces off anyway, that's probably going down and nuking a city.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think they were willing to write off, I believe, was that Austin or
I think that was
Dallas?
Dallas or Houston. One of the
I mean, there's already 3 big cities in that state.
Yeah.
One of them you can lose and be okay with.
So, like I said earlier, Steve doesn't really believe that Jasmine would be dead, so he goes and steals a helicopter. And it doesn't take that much convincing for the guy who pulls a gun on him. He's basically just like, are you going to shoot me? And the guy's just like, no. And so he just like takes off.
Yeah.
And leaves, which quickly goes to El Toro. And Jasmine's just already there with her ragtag crew of misfits, including the First Lady. And he swoops him back. And that'll get you in the good books with the president, bringing back his wife. And I was going to say in one piece, but she basically gets there and dies.
Yeah, in a really weird death where she's just bleeding a lot.
Yeah.
I guess so. I'm not a doctor.
No.
I assumed if she's been okay for this many days, she can't be bleeding that fast. Maybe they just don't have anything for blood transfusions?
Maybe.
Whatever. You know what? Her death was needed for the president to be sad. So this is okay. It furthered the plot.
Yeah, exactly. And you get a kind of a sweet moment between him, his daughter, and the president. When I think the daughter just knows. She's like, is mommy sleeping? And he's just like, yeah.
Not yet. I think it also has a little payoff too, because at the start, when the First Lady and the president are talking, and she's like, "Oh, did you just wake?" Or she was upset with him because he'd been working too late.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, you woke me up." And then she was like, "No, you've been awake. Like, I can always tell when you're lying." And then it circles back around to when he's trying to comfort her, and she's like, "I can tell when you're lying. I'm gonna die." And it's a really sweet, cute moment between the two of them.
Yeah, and you don't really get like all that much of them together except for like over the phone, because they're basically separated the whole movie until she comes back and dies quickly afterwards. So yeah, it's sweet, but kind of just like quickly done, and then that's basically it. We move on, and finally we're on the 4th of July. And so David gets the idea from his father to build a computer virus to infect the alien network. I guess he kind of understood that because they were in their satellites, that maybe he can poke around in their business.
Which I do want to say, the like tech speak in this movie was so good. They hadn't used the word quantum in a movie yet. So because of that, they actually all sound like decently intelligent, and they don't just go like, well, it's quantuming through that quantum. They're actually using like, because they don't go too big either. It's just like they're using our communication relays to get around the world. not super complex, and then like it makes enough sense to me as a layman that you can kind of reverse engineer that and get back into them.
Yeah.
They didn't really overthink the tech in this, which really pays off because it's not painful to listen to their explanation of how they're going to save the world.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear cut. Like he's like, oh, we're gonna give him a virus, basically. And actually, have you seen like War of the Worlds?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I thought when I heard like first that they were a virus, I was like, oh shit, are they just gonna do the War of the Worlds thing where they're gonna get them to sneeze on an alien and basically
go to
do
the
the
spaceship and cough on them?
Yeah, but no, they do a computer virus, and so then they get the idea to fly up in the alien spaceship and infect the network and also nuke the mothership, which is a classic sci-fi thing.
Oh yeah.
Now.
I'm glad that nuke was still the answer and they never needed to like work around that one. Like the Secretary of Defense, despite taking a couple L's at the end when he's fired, he still does get one big win when everything gets nuked to shit anyways.
Yeah. And like I liked how, unlike in a movie now where like they're overwhelmed with whatever and they just nuke the mothership and everything dies. Like in the Avengers, like they kill the big ship and then all the bad guys are just immediately dead.
Everyone just falls over because they don't want to like worry about dealing with each individual small guy. So they're just like, hive mind or something.
Yeah, whatever. In this one, they actually have to go in and like destroy every single one of those 36 motherships that are there. Or like small disc ships, the city destroyer ones, which is, it doesn't show all of them, but it shows like it happening around the world and how they communicate with that, which is, I appreciate it. They didn't just like brush it off and like, they infected the network and they just crashed to the ground. It easily could have been doing that, but it was just to remove the shields. Okay, so then the president fires the Secretary of Defense, and the U.S. uses Morse code to communicate around the world as to how and when they're going to perform a counterattack. They collect a bunch of people who can fly. So they were like, hey, if anyone has any flying experience, come forward, which of course includes Russ.
Beautiful boy Russ. Finally getting his time.
Yeah, exactly. And all the crop dusting days paid off because now he's getting his moment. Steve and Jasmine quickly get married with Jeff Goldblum and his ex-wife as their witnesses. And then we get the speech.
Yes.
The classic speech. And like I had seen it before out of context, but in the context of this movie, it's the best part of this movie.
It's good. It is so good.
They must have spent a lot of time, probably several days or weeks, just on this speech because it hits so fucking hard.
I imagine when they were casting this role, all they had was a lineup of guys giving this speech, and then they'll just work backwards from there because all the other president scenes did not matter as much as this one.
Or this, this also could have been one of those things where like, when people are writing a movie or writing a book, they have an idea of like a line or a moment or whatnot, and then they just base the rest of the movie off of this. Like this, I could have seen being the basis for this entire movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Just having the president talk about Independence Day as now like fighting off aliens.
Yeah.
And then they just work backwards from that.
And then, and then they arrived at a beautiful movie. Really
great. And I will watch this scene on its own. Like I'll watch this movie again because it was my first 2 times watching it for this podcast, but the speech, even after the movie, I had to go watch the speech again.
It's like every day before I just like walk through the doors of my job, just play this speech. Like, all right, I can do another 8 hours of this. Let's go.
Who needs motivational podcasts when you can just listen to this speech?
Just the one president speech from Independence Day every day of my life.
Yeah, exactly. And so the president then decides to fly up with the rest of the crew. Nobly putting himself as a leader in this position. And David and Steve fly out in the spaceship, and we get a kind of a funny moment where Steve actually, we got a funny moment between them before because they hadn't interacted before, and their first interaction is, do you really think you can fly that thing? Jeff Goldblum asks. And Will Smith's like, do you really think you do all that bullshit that you just said?
That was honestly such a great moment.
Yeah, and it really got their dynamic pretty quickly, right away.
Yeah. Like they both know how full of shit they each are, but they want to just like be right and win at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So.
And it's really nice to see these characters finally get together, and I wanted to see more of them together because they worked so well together in this movie, especially in these scenes in the ship. Because like Will Smith backs up and he's just like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And so they eventually finally fly out. Will Smith says the line, I got to get me one of these. They land in the mothership. They fly up there and then they kind of get taken in through autopilot, and they get like mounted and I guess they're kind of just like waiting for a bit.
Yeah.
Not really sure what was necessarily happening there. There was probably some like procedure for ships who come in. So they cover up the glass and try to hide for a bit, but eventually they override it and they can't hide anymore. And so then they're basically like, well, we're probably just going to die up here. And so they light the cigars, which I actually haven't mentioned any of the cigars moments yet, but like that was a big thing for Will Smith through the whole movie, was having a cigar at the end of like a big smash 'em up.
Yeah, whenever they killed things good, they would have a good cigar afterwards.
Yeah, and so they light the cigar, basically kind of conceding defeat. And I really like when they finally open the thing back up, and they're just like, "Hey, hello, like it's us, we're here."
I incredibly love when they're uploading the virus. They have a loading bar called uploading virus.
And they have the classic symbol of the skull and crossbones on the screens.
It's so perfect because this had to have been some custom software or something that Jeff Goldblum had made to interface with the aliens.
Yep.
So the man put time into coding a box that said uploading virus to show the percentage of it. Absolutely worth saving some time. Absolutely worth putting in there. Yeah, good work.
And so the virus is administered. It kind of fucks with everything, and then they launch the nuke and have a 30-second countdown. But because they're trapped, they basically think that they're just going to, get nuked. But launching the nuke actually judders them free, and so we have the scene of them like zipping out of there. And this was one of the good moments of Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. Just classic Jeff Goldblum isms.
Another classic action movie where they just barely escape in time through the closing doors, and then all the ships behind them smash into them because it was that much of a margin.
Yeah, and so we then go back to Earth where the president and the rest of the ships are there. They launch one missile, and it doesn't hit because it bounced off the shield because the virus maybe hadn't distributed enough yet. And so they are going to fly back, but the president is like, "Nah, mate, one more.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try one more." And
this
so
one's for my wife.
And it hits, and then everything just fucking sets off, and we get another big smashy up battle in the sky where they're trying to launch as many missiles as possible. They realize that the point they really need to launch the missile in is where the alien ship is going to launch their laser. But the president's out of missiles, and so Russ then has to take on responsibility.
Our beautiful boy Russ.
Yeah, and this is when we get the other real classic line of from Russ, and where he's like, "Fuck, how does it start?" I just remember the "I'm back."
Oh
and
yeah.
then
I don't. Yeah, it wasn't like a super succinct thing until it comes to like the "I'm back" or like I'm home or something like that.
Yeah. And he just fucking kamikazes into there because the missile had jammed. And it's so fun seeing that, like, the ship like slowly just crawl up to there and just basically just tink it.
Oh, yeah.
And then boom, another massive explosion and another really great effects work. I swear they must have done this with some like models or something, because this was either really great CGI for the time or this was models, because unbelievable scene again of this just fucking exploding from the beam there.
So the fun fact coming later will actually answer that question.
Oh, good.
Of yours.
Okay, I'm excited to know the answer.
It really happened. That was the answer. You
Okay,
don't need
great.
miniatures.
Wow.
This is a documentary.
They just never went up to Canada, so we just didn't know.
We were fine the whole time. We didn't know any shit was happening.
Oh, it's "Hello, boys, I'm back." Yeah,
Right. That's what it is.
yeah. So David and Steve crash into the ground, and they walk out of the spaceship in the field, or in that big. Is it a field? What do you even call it?
Yeah. Open space.
In the big
ground,
open-
In the. Wait, is it? Because it's in Nevada still, right?
Yeah.
So I guess
Desert?
it's desert.
Yeah, in the big open area.
Yeah.
And
large flat ground.
You get that another kind of classic looking shot of them just fucking swaggering it up with their cigars.
Ciggy's still going.
This crashed spaceship behind them, and they all get greeted by their significant others and the president. President kind of gives David some kudos after, being mad at him for punching him in the face previously. And we close on the ruins of the mothership hurtling towards Earth. And so I was like, are they going to just be fucking bombarded with debris now.
Oh, most definitely. There's no way that's all burning up on entry. Hopefully it hits an ocean, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully. What if they just take out like another fucking city? Just like, oh yeah, we got it, boys, and then just fucking debris takes everyone out. So that's where we end Independence Day.
Yeah.
Which, damn.
I mean, what a movie.
I know.
Am I right?
Were there any parts that you didn't like about this movie?
Oh man, it's hard to because it doesn't try to be more than it really is. Like it knows it's an action movie and they do the characters really well. Like it's hard to pick apart anything I didn't like.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it's one of my favorites. I don't know if it's not like an incredible. It doesn't try to be a whole lot. It's just a good solid action flick, but it's so solid. I couldn't really find anything that bothered me really.
And yeah, like I think that's just part of like the genuine joy and excitement you get from watching this movie or a movie like this. You know, you're not watching like fucking cinema, you know, like you're watching Independence Day. It's a big smashy up sci-fi action movie, and you're either gonna love this type of movie or you're not. Yeah, which you know, we are the type of people that love this type of movie.
We were there for the entire ride. Yeah, like it's just such a solid start to finisher. It's perfect. It's really the perfect movie.
Yeah.
I mean, does nothing on... 'cause Paddington 2 also lost its perfect score rate?
It did.
So let's get
from
Independence Day from 1996. We are going to review it with just 10 out of 10s until it is the only perfect movie. We're scrubbing the negative ones. This deserves the throne.
I mean, you know the Rotten Tomatoes score, so you know how long that would probably take.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's later in the podcast.
Yeah, no, I don't really know if there's moments that I didn't like. There is a lot of characters to introduce and a lot of like little pieces to put together at the start, and so like sometimes at the beginning can feel like a little bit draggy, but it's all necessary stuff because it pays off. Like almost every piece of it pays off. Like Russ's, you know, flying and his like he's kind of down in the dumps and finally proving himself, and then Will Smith, you know, wanting to be an astronaut and stuff like that. Yeah, it all works out. What was your favorite moment though? If you had to pick one.
I mean, okay, one singular favorite moment. It's Will Smith punching an alien in the head and knocking this guy to the bricks for a couple hours.
Yeah.
That's such... I love, like, the victory in Will Smith doing that is fantastic. And you think there's some amazing scenes for, like, visual effects and whatnot, but really what captures the whole thing is Will Smith just one-shotting a guy in the dome. It's beautiful. How about for you?
Oh... I mean, it's probably a cop-out to say the president's speech, but like...
It deserves it.
It's so good. The performance is good, the writing is good, and just like that being kind of like the culminating moments of this movie just was so perfect, and I literally sat up to watch and listen to this in the whole context of the movie. And so yeah, I would have to say it's probably this president's speech.
I want to get like that whole speech just tattooed on my back so I can just like anytime I'm feeling down, I just need 2 mirrors and I can just read that to myself and then just dedicate the rest of my body to a Independence Day 1996 tattoo and just start working on from there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, I'll hold you to that. Go right now.
All right, that's Patreon perk. When we get to when we get 20,000 Patreon subscribers, I get a full body tattoo from Independence Day.
Who is your like favorite kind of character or like actor performance in this movie?
So I want to say Jeff Goldblum, but it's just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. So I'm not going to say that because that's not fair to everyone else who had to act as someone else for the movie.
Yeah.
I really liked the president's performance. Yeah. In all honesty, I think he was probably like Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
I think Bill Pullman's performance was my favorite of the entire ensemble, but everyone kind of hit their marks.
Yeah,
no
they did.
Assignments were dropped.
I was also going to say the president, but I also like David's dad.
Yes.
He's like really funny and he hits every time. Like there's sometimes he was a comic relief character.
Oh yeah.
And so there's times where that character can be annoying or like their jokes don't land. His jokes landed every fucking time.
Every time.
And like it was just like clueless Jewish dad humor.
Yeah.
And just so funny. And so I really liked what he did in this movie. So I was going to ask you about like the cinematography and the craft of this movie. I thought it was really effective. in shooting like the sci-fi elements and the spaceships of it,
Mhm.
especially that scene of it emerging out of the clouds. Like that is like one of the standout moments of cinematography for this movie for me, and one that I will remember for a long time.
Oh yeah, and the scene of the White House being destroyed, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's been voted as one of the best like movie moments of the 90s in terms of just like how
Deserving.
it looks.
Yeah.
Because it's so well done, and there's so many things in this movie where the action is so well captured and just put together that like they knew when to really go for a big shot, and they nailed it every time because they didn't need some like beautifully mapped out like scene. All they needed was just really convincing action that makes you feel the way you're supposed to.
Yep.
And they got it every time they tried.
Yeah, they did. Okay. Tell me if it was practical effects or not, because I want to know.
Okay, we're going to drop fun fact early because
Okay.
this will answer that. So I'm just going to say the fun fact as I have it written down here. Independence Day holds the record for most miniature model work to appear in one film. Model shop supervisor Michael Joyce estimated that more miniatures were used for this film than in any other two films combined. Due to the advances in digital technology since the film's release, most experts believe this record may stand forever.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of mini work.
Okay,
A
good.
lot of minis went into
Good.
this.
I think it really shows. And this is why I love older movies like this and movies that use practical effects. And this is also one of the perks of like being kind of like a 4K movie collector is when they restore an old movie. Most of the time, because visual like or CGI wasn't like up to standard, they would do stuff like this. They would do practical effects and miniatures. And so when they do the transfer to a 4K from the original film negative, it looks so real and so good still, because it was all done in camera, that it holds up to this day.
Yeah.
And so when I was watching the 4K of this on Disney Plus, it looked perfect. Like it looks like it actually was happening, which of course it was, just on the miniature format. Okay, I'm so glad I know that, because it was, people need to use miniatures more because it genuinely sells the effect.
And it holds up so much
It
better.
does, yeah. Like you can't, like in like 10 years from this movie, they would have done that probably in CGI.
Easily.
And it wouldn't have held up as good as this does.
Oh no, especially like I feel for this movie, if they had gone CGI heavy, it would have really hurt. But because all the like a lot of what holds this together is how good those action scenes are.
Yeah.
So if any of that if you lose any of that, like this movie kind of spirals pretty quickly.
Yeah, and like you can tell when they did use visual effects to when they used miniatures, because like especially in the fighter jet scenes when they're flying around, like some of that, it looks like it was a CGI from 1996. And so if that was the case, the whole movie, it probably would have looked and felt a lot cheesier than it actually is. Which it's a little bit cheesy as a movie, but it's still fun. And the fact that they went all out with those miniatures really sold the effects. And
it really made it be just part of the special movie it is that it should be to the world.
Okay, so I guess my question for you now, I have this one written down because this is just kind of standard fare, but I will ask it. Would you watch it again?
Oh,
Obviously,
absolutely.
yes.
Would you watch it again?
Yes.
How could you not watch it again? It's such a good film.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, I feel stupid for having not watched it, even though, like, it's an obvious one. It's like one of those movies that, like, people are like, oh, you haven't seen that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like, I'll expose myself again. I'll get it out. So people are already probably upset at me for not watching Independence Day. I haven't seen The Godfather or any of those movies.
Yeah, I haven't either. So
Okay,
that's
cool.
Okay, we're not.
We're
still okay. We're in this one together.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get there as a season of this podcast. But yeah. So I would 100% watch it again. And it's one of those movies where I want to show people that haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's just such a fun flick.
Yeah, and now I get to be the guy that's like, you haven't seen Independence Day?
I've seen that thing at least twice. So we'll dive into the reviews on this one here. So we're gonna start off with the Rotten Tomatoes, the critics, the despicable people that they are.
Oh, they were bad on it?
67%.
How fucking critics have no joy sometimes.
How do you not enjoy it? How do you put this below a 50% on your score? That's a crime. Absolute crime.
Yeah. Audience were higher though? Were they higher?
They were higher.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. What were they?
They bring it to 75. Which
that still
it's
feels
still
low.
too low. It's still too low. I don't get it. Really, what is wrong with people who have a negative review of this? So IMDb is going to shoot the middle. It's just a pure 7. which is a little. I guess that's not so bad.
Yeah.
But it deserves higher than that.
Yeah.
But you know what it deserves way higher than? Metacritic 59.
Oh my god.
That is an insult to what this movie has done, to what this movie has given the world.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at it with the benefit of hindsight, of course. And so maybe when the critics saw this movie and it came out, they were like, well, this isn't highbrow cinema.
This is only a really fun action flick that's solid the whole way through with beautiful performances and well put together cinematography. Meh. But is it Gone with the Wind? Shut up.
What about the box office?
So, at least we have some wins on the box office. On a budget of $75 million, worldwide gross of $817.4 million.
My.
Say what you want about this movie, but they got paid.
Yeah. There's one thing I did know, because I was doing a little bit of looking around. I didn't look at the number, but one of the reasons we're covering this movie is because it is the biggest movie of 1996.
Yes.
It was the number one movie of the year in 1996.
Even though somehow even the fans didn't really love it.
Yeah.
They only gave it a 75% at best.
I mean, look, I'll do my review now.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Hit me with your review. You look like you have some words to say.
Because I think this is a 7 out of 10 movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't go much higher than that.
That's true. I know where you're going. I agree.
Because because it's obviously it's an enjoyable movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I guess, basic. Like it's good at what it's doing, and it carries you through the entire ride. However, is it like the best movie ever? No, but like it is an enjoyable movie, and I think a 7 out of 10 is a safe score for that.
You know what? That's fair. I'm less mad at the audience. Still hate the critics.
Okay, what is your score though?
I really want to 8 out of 10 this.
That's
I'm
fine.
going to
It's
8
your
out of 10
opinion.
this.
It's your
I
opinion.
really love this movie because I do agree. It doesn't really reach to be anything incredible. You kind of know the formula that they're putting down in front of you.
Yeah.
But they just keep hitting it so well. And even if it's not like an incredibly new cutting edge take on this type of film, it still has some delightful surprises.
Yeah, it
some
does.
absolutely tasty little tidbits in there where every part is really enjoyable. Like it's just such a complete package.
The craft is really good too. Like
Yes.
it's really well put together, and the effort that went into this. I'm still caught up on the miniatures because it was so crazy, and the work they put into it it paid off.
Oh,
It must have been
absolutely.
unbelievable difficult, but I'm glad it made bank, and I'm glad it still holds up to this day, and that people are still watching it on Independence Day.
And you know what? I was going to say this earlier, but I forgot. But one thing I really love about this movie is that it's just like a wholesome relation movie. Every guy in there's like a big wife guy. Every gal in there's like a big hubby gal. Like they're all like, the couples love each other. The only people who don't love each other end up loving each other, and that's like a relationship arc in there. But it's not like, it's never mean to anyone other than the very Jewish dad, but like he's kind of in on it, so I don't really feel bad
and
about
the
that.
Secretary of Offense. He was offensive.
He was
the Secretary
offensive.
of Defense, who was he was kind of a slimy prick, but
I mean, you need a beat 'em up character.
Yeah,
he
he
didn't
did.
deserve love, so he doesn't get it, and that's fine.
yeah. And like it's interesting how this movie was like he was the only one who was very like heavy-handed on like let's just nuke the shit out of them basically and jumping to conclusions to get at them, because there would be a lot more people that in a genuine situation like this that would just be ready to fucking shoot at this guy and like kill them.
Oh, absolutely. That would be an overwhelming amount of people would be like, well, let's shoot at him and see what's still there after.
Yeah, like we saw Arrival, right?
Arrival.
It was with the orange peel shape or the orange shaped discs arrive. 2016 movie with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner.
I don't remember.
I
this.
literally think we went together.
Ooh, it did not make an impact on me.
But they also kind of show a human kind of way of how people would react to aliens arriving in a way of like some governments were not wanting to communicate with them anymore because they just wanted to blow them up basically instead of having to try and create that dialect. Which in this movie there's that one guy, the Secretary of Defense, who's like, let's just blow them to shit. Then there's the group of people on top of the building that are like, oh, like, welcome. And then there's the people that are just trying to figure it out in the middle, like David and the president.
All the nerds who are trying to figure out the answers to
Yeah.
this. Ugh.
So before we move off of reviews, I did find one funny Letterboxd review that I'm going to share with you right now. So I went to Letterboxd on Independence Day and I looked up the half-star reviews, so the people that really hated it. And this is what Eli has to say. So visualize this. It's in all lowercase. So I didn't watch all of this because I was a sepipip. But what I saw was so garbage and bad, and I hated it. Ew, yucky. But wait, there's one more line. It would be 0 corn dogs out of 5, but I can't rate it 0 out of 5, so it's a 0.5 out of 5 because so bad. So thank you, Eli, for ew yucky.
Ew, yucky. Eli, I can't believe that. He missed an L in a sleep because his entire review was a giant L.
Yeah, but he also added more P's. It was like a sippy.
Because it's poopy. I hate that, Eli.
And he also had, after ew yuck, he had the 2 emojis of the barfing, like the one with the green one with the almost puking, and then the one that was puking.
Oh no! And then he let go. Oh, he couldn't hold the puke in.
Couldn't hold the puke in for
it's
Independence
really
Day, which is just like David, who almost puked on the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you have the awards details? Does this win anything?
I have some juicy award details for our beautiful boy, Independence Day. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards.
Wow.
The Best Visual Effects.
Makes sense.
And the Best Sound. And it won Best Visual Effects.
Good.
Other notable things that it had at least nominations for the BAFTAs, it was also nominated for Sound and Visual Effects. However, it did not win either. But the place where it really cleaned up was the Saturn Awards, which are specifically for sci-fi movies.
Nice.
This movie was heavily decorated.
Okay.
I'm just going to say the whole list because I want to just add more accolades to this thing. Best Science Fiction Film, 1. Best Director, 1. Best Special Effects, 1.
Yeah.
2 Best Actor nominations for both Smith and Goldblum. Don't know why Goldblum got one. There were also better performances in that movie, but that's not a huge thing. Best Supporting Actor nomination for Brent Spiner. Best Supporting Actress for Vivica A. Fox. Best Performance by a Young Actor, James Duval. Best Writer. Best Costumes. Best Sound.
Damn. And it won all of those, or was that just...
No, I only won like the first one.
Oh, okay.
But it got nominated for like
deserving
a dozen
for all
things.
of those and the wins. Yeah.
Oh.
Damn, that's great. I mean, it's not surprising that, it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. We'll talk about this in the wrap-up episode, but like what it did, what it was nominated for and what it won, much deserved. I'm very glad that it was nominated and won for Best Visual Effects.
For Best Visual Effects, yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all. Well, do you have any other final thoughts about Independence Day before I ask you to rank it?
Final thought, it's incredible.
Yeah.
This is the best movie. So
we're starting high. We got 24 movies to go.
And they're all worse than Independence Day.
Okay, I guess we'll see. So what we're going to introduce in Snubs and Dubs seasons is, because we're watching 25 movies, we're going to start a ranking. Of course, this is the first episode, so naturally Independence Day is automatically number 1 in our ranking. But as we add more movies to this season, we will, actually have a genuine ranking that is being ongoing, which we will then constantly update, and then at the end in our wrap-up episode, reflect on and see if that holds up. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to Season 1, Episode 1 of Snubs and Dubs. I hope you're enjoying the new format, and leave us feedback going forward. As always, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all at Snubs and Dubs. I would love to hear your thoughts on Independence Day or on the episode, so please tweet me a message or tweet Jason a message, whoever's going to be managing the account at the time, and just tell us your questions, give us your recommendations or anything else. You can also find me at Kyle Tobiasson on Twitter and Jason at Windy_Mills with a Z. Of course, all of those links are going to be in the show notes below, as well as also remember that I've left the Amazon links for Independence Day's Blu-ray, 4K, and DVD, and the link to Buzzsprout. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In fact, I have a 5-star review here from Carlos Roberto Nagilo, who says, the hosts are very well spoken and have a very engaging discussion on the best and worst parts of some very good movies. Would highly recommend. Thank you, Carlos. We really appreciate your 5-star review. If you have a 5-star review, we will read it on this part of the show, so make sure to leave that on this episode. Make sure to check back next week for another episode, but here's a sneak peek on the film that we're going to be covering.
Richard Gere.
I speak, you do not speak. Your job is just to sit there and look innocent.
Well, I am innocent.
That's it. That's exactly how I want you to look. Can you remember that? Look in the mirror if you have to.
I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap. Goodbye.
Bye.